Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Chew. I'm Robert Wallace. This is the place where we ask, am I choosing the way of Jesus, or am I choosing my own way? As we wrap up this week, we're looking at commit my spirit. Look with me to Luke 23, verses 45 through 46. For the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. When he said this, he breathed his last. This final statement, recorded by Luke, can be found in Psalm 31, verse 5, a psalm of David. Now, Matthew records that Jesus cried out in a loud voice. Look at Matthew 27, verses 50 through 51. And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split. When we think of the final words of Jesus, it is finished, we ought to tie verse 51 of Matthew's account to Luke's. When Jesus finished his work on the cross, the temple curtain was torn in two from top to bottom, and in that moment, our path to God the Father through Jesus was made direct. Even in this final moment, before breathing his last, Jesus was giving everything to God. Jesus committed his life to serving God's plan and ultimately his spirit to God. Can we see how deeply and truly committed to God's plan Jesus was from the very beginning to the very end of his human life? Jesus suffered, and in that suffering, he cared for others. Jesus looked with compassion on those who tortured him and asked God to forgive them. Jesus ensured that his mother would be taken care of throughout her life until she passed away by John. Jesus honored John with the responsibility to care for Mary. Jesus forgave the thief on the cross and welcomed him into paradise. Jesus' journey through his last day and ultimately the cross shows us how we ought to live our lives as his disciple. We follow him without scorn or bitterness. We don't carry our cross and spew venom at anyone who gets close enough to see our suffering. Instead, we take up our cross, laying down our lives with pure love for God and others with full devotement to God the Father. Whether we are going through trials now or when we will face trials in the future, we follow the example of Jesus. We lead with love, with kindness. We lead with grace and mercy. We take the high road even if it brings us to a low place. Now, here are my questions for today. Will I commit my life to Jesus? Will I commit my spirit to God? Will I take up my cross and follow Jesus? Well, what is the Holy Spirit saying to me right now for today? Will I choose the way of Jesus that leads to a full life, or will I choose my own way? Now, I'm praying for us as we carefully consider these passages today. Everything that we've covered this week, let's invite the Holy Spirit to give us eyes to see and ears to hear God's truth from his word. Let's have receptive hearts and minds to receive these truths, and then let's ask the Father for the same boldness, commitment, and courage of Jesus to go and do what the Holy Spirit is leading us to do today. I pray you'll have a wonderful day, my friends. Go in the peace of God. Blessings to you. Bye for now.